Good morning and welcome to this webinar by IDC. It's sponsored by Deutsche Telekom Global Business. We will be talking today about the future network and what it means for the future enterprise. So we have an agenda today, and it's just a bit of scene setting really, that we will be presenting the IDC's insight on the future network, which will be followed by Deutsche Telekom speaker that we have today, who will be presenting the Deutsche Telekom approach in the market, and they would also be sharing some of the customer success stories. So first things first, we have the speaker introductions. So today, of course, it's me, Nishi Nangia. I am Associate Director at IDC Consulting in Europe. I'll be moderating today's session. We have two guest speakers today with us, Andrew Whedon, who is the Managing Director at Deutsche Telekom Global Business Solutions based in the UK. He will be presenting the Deutsche Telekom approach on the future network. Of course, we also have our guest speaker from IDC, Jan-Hein Bakkers. Jan-Hein is a Senior Research Director at IDC, and he's responsible for the European infrastructure and telecoms research in the Europe market. So without further ado, I would pass on to Jan-Hein now, who will be starting off the webinar today to present IDC's insight on the future network. Jan-Hein?
Thanks, Nishi, and hello and welcome from my side. It's my pleasure to speaking to you today about the future network and what it means for the future enterprise. So I'll talk about the business objectives that enterprises are trying to achieve as they move into the digital first era, the challenges they're facing, and the technology priorities they're focusing on. And I will then zoom in on the role of the network and how its transformation can actually drive success. But let me start with a look at the macroeconomic picture. I think we can all agree that we're facing very turbulent times. Coming out of a pandemic that has left its mark on the economy, on society, we're now also seeing a number of other external factors that are heavily impacting the circumstances under which European enterprises are operating. They're increasingly faced with a shortage of skills, and they feel the continued effect of supply chain disruptions. Think about the limited availability of chipsets, for example. Inflation, it's driving up custom prices, and we're seeing a major war on the continent while energy supply is severely limited. At the same time, the European Union and local governments are putting together major stimulus packages to help the economy through difficult times, while at the same time, they are driving the transition to a more sustainable society. Now, all of these forces are interconnected, and in the past year, they have quickly developed from modest winds of change to significant storms of disruption. Those storms are not temporary, and they are much heavier than the macroeconomic influences than we've seen in past decades. Now, the exact level of impact is determined by the intersect of these forces and can therefore be quite different from one company to another. As they try to weather these storms, the sentiment among enterprises about the economy is becoming increasingly pessimistic, and that's underlined by our surveys. By November 2022, 54% of European enterprises expected annual GDP in 2023 to become negatively impacted by uncertainty as a result of the pandemic, geopolitical tensions, and supply chain disruptions. At the same time, 74% of organizations in that same survey said they expect a recession in their home country within the coming year. Under these circumstances, we see that CEOs and their executive teams are adjusting their business priorities. A survey from August 2022 revealed that customer satisfaction and experience top a list of 12 business priorities in European organizations. In uncertain times, we're also seeing that priorities related to operational excellence, such as improving efficiency and enhancing employee productivity, are moving up the ladder. Enterprises are also trying to improve their resilience to weather stormy times. You can see that sustainability now also makes the top 6, and that underlines the growing importance of environmental, societal, and governance aspects of the business. If we then link this to technology priorities, we again see that focus on the customer experience, but also on digital, because improving customer-focused digital experiences tops the list. And as with the business priorities, we are showing the top 6 out of a total of 12 possible options. Investing in security is the second ranked priorities, as organizations aim to fend off the evolving threat landscape. Faced with shortage of skills, organizations are also focused on improving the competencies of employees. Applications modernization, partner collaboration, and cost reduction round out the top 6 of technology priorities. At IDC, we talk a lot about the future enterprise, and that's our vision of an organization that's completely digitally transformed. And this future enterprise underpins business processes with technology, it's fueled by innovation, and it's platform-enabled and ecosystem-centric. A successful transformation will require organizations to fundamentally change all aspects of their business. And to drive this progress, we have identified 9 areas that should be at the heart of the digital agenda. And they include areas like operations, future of work, connectedness, customer experience, and trust. Most organizations recognize the need for a more digital approach, and 95% claim to have adopted a digital-first strategy, which means they're effectively asking the question, is there some digital-based capability that could deliver the desired outcomes for any given scenario? And by 2027, we expect that on average 41% of an enterprise's revenue will be generated from digital products or services. Digital first means cloud first, and nearly all European organizations expect that cloud platforms will play a significant role in their digital efforts. However, organizations take different approaches to how they will implement cloud. In May 2022, 23% of European organizations indicated they were on a primary cloud strategy. 42% indicated they have a multiple cloud strategy, which basically means they consciously spread their resources, skills, and development efforts across several clouds. 25% choose what we call a cross-clouds approach. Basically, this means they aim to use a wide range of cloud resources by using cross-cloud solutions. And 5% favor open source solutions to avoid lock-in to any single cloud platform or software provider. The importance of cloud is also underlined by the results from our enterprise communication survey. In this survey, every year we survey more than 1,000 organizations with a wide area network across Europe. And the results that you see on this chart, on this slide are from our 2022 edition. When it comes to the top technology investment domains, which you can see on the left-hand side, you can see that cloud services are at the top of the list. Second ranked, secure remote networking also remains a key area of investment as organizations look to structurally embed hybrid working models into their organization. Network security, data and analytics, and cloud communications and collaboration round out the top 5. We then asked respondents about the IT and network challenges they're facing. Cybersecurity threats are the #1 challenge, as they've been for a number of years. 37% of organizations consider this a key challenge, as they see the potential threats that come from their increasing reliance on ICT, driven by a string of different threats, like ransomware, DDoS, and concerns over privacy. They're also struggling with the modernization and automation of IT management, while the integration of new technologies, like 5G or SD-WAN, is also perceived as quite challenging. Fourth rank is shared by resource constraints in terms of budget, skills, and time, as well as cloud migration. Andrew, can I ask you, what do you see in the market in terms of challenges that organizations are facing?
Sure, thank you, Jan. And hello to everyone. So I'm gonna sort of touch on 2 of them here that I think are linked together, and we see this fairly regularly, and it's to do with the constraints of IT budget, skills, and time. And that's linked to, I think, the desire by organizations to modernize and automate their IT infrastructure. So the idea that automation will improve process and ideally drive out costs in the business is true. And I think that's why it's up there as one of the key challenges. But that journey to get there means you've got to have the right people and the skills to do that. And so I think the constraints on the budgets and time won't go away anytime soon, whilst people take that automation journey and get to that point where they can streamline their operations and get better efficiency. So those 2 we see really regularly. And that's where we can sometimes fall into that position of assisting them on that journey. The other one that that I see fairly regularly, and we talk about, is the cloud migration strategy. This is where everyone is right now. Everyone's on part of that journey, whether it's their sort of the tail end or not. What typically happens, we see, is customers taking that journey have to do an awful lot of things simultaneously to make that happen. So they're going to have to touch their network and their applications and their server estate, and that is a significant undertaking, which is obviously why it's up in the top 10. And that cloud migration strategy, which I'll talk about a little bit later on, is critical to picking the right solution and the right partner to making that a reality.
Thanks, Andrew. That's some great additional color from the market that you're sharing. You also mentioned the network, and we see the network as a critical foundation of the future enterprise that I talked about. And I think the past few years have raised the visibility of the network, while at the same time demonstrating its value to senior management and also to the rest of the organization. And looking ahead, I think this can only drive the realization that the transformation of the network in general and the wide area network in particular will be a prerequisite for the success of digital first and cloud first strategies. Or to put it simply, the future enterprise will need a future network. And for us, this future network is an application-centric network that supports the right end user experience for each application. And it has 6 key attributes: providing better agility, providing better manageability, better scalability, better cost effectiveness, and all of that in a more secure and sustainable manner. Now, we see a number of key building blocks that will enable this transformation. Clearly, the evolution will increasingly be driven by software. Network virtualization technologies like software-defined networking and network functions virtualization will make the network more programmable and flexible. At the same time, a more widespread use of intelligence, automation, and monitoring will be needed to optimize the performance of the network and applications while reducing complexity. If we look at architectures, they're becoming increasingly hybrid, bringing together a mix of fixed and mobile access and private networks and public internet in order to provide an optimal combination of cost and performance for each of the locations, users, and applications. We see cloud moving to the heart of the network. Organizations are using a growing range of solutions to solve connectivity needs to and between multi-cloud environments. And then finally, we see SD-WAN as a technology that brings all of these building blocks together. Convergence between wide area networking and security is a hot topic, I think we can say, and it has been for quite a few years. I think the market broadly agrees that a further convergence between SD-WAN and network security is the way forward. If we look at the chart on the left-hand side, it shows where companies are when it comes to more converged architectures. More than half claim to be already using this on an extensive or more limited level, and only 8% has no plans to use a converged architecture. So I think the interest is quite clear. At the same time, by now, most people on the supply side and the demand side have at least been talking about SASE, or Secure Access Services Edge, as the convergence between SD-WAN and security. But for me, that's probably as far as the commonalities go, because when we drill down into more detail, we actually see quite a few differences. There is no universal definition of what SASE actually is. People across the industry mean different things when they talk about SASE. Is it single platform or best of breed, or all function in the cloud, or could it be at the edge as well? Similarly, end user organizations are also different in their background, their approach, and their preferences, and also in the stage where they are in their development. The results on the right-hand side are from IDC's European IT Security Survey, where we asked about the communication and collaboration between IT and networking teams. And it shows that 37% of organizations had integrated network and security under single leadership, while 1 in 5 said they have regular scheduled meetings. The remainder have a more ad hoc approach. And this, for me, really highlights the differences between company and also shows there's still quite a way to go for many organizations. I don't think there is a unique way forward for convergence. It is not single vendor or best of breed platforms. There will be different paths for organizations that basically reflect the different stages that they're at in terms of networking and security life cycles, the different existing estates, and also the different preferences when it comes to vendors. So cloud networking, we're clearly seeing that the concept is broadening as organizations embrace cloud-first strategies. In the past years, we've seen strong adoption of private connectivity to public cloud providers. Think about direct connects or express routes. But now we're no longer just talking about simple connectivity to a cloud provider. Networks are increasingly delivered from the cloud in the form of cloud-managed networks that allow centralized and simplified management. We're also seeing the emergence of networking within the cloud, where enterprises leverage the growing range of capabilities provided by hyperscalers to connect regions and resources, leveraging their own backbone. These capabilities are confined to a single cloud, but as I've shown before, many organizations are using multiple clouds, and that's giving way to multi-cloud networking that enables a seamless movement of workloads between different clouds. What I do want to underline here is that this is not a choice between the different forms of cloud networking. Many organizations will use most, if not all of these solutions in some shape or form in the future, alongside their SD-WAN. In terms of deployment models, we're also seeing growing diversity. We still see organizations that want to manage the network themselves and those that prefer an end-to-end fully managed service. But we're also seeing organizations that break up the underlay and overlay, and those that choose for a co-managed model, where certain policies like routing and security are done by the end user organization, but daily operations and support are managed by a service provider. And the picture in the market is really quite mixed. The chart on the left-hand side breaks down European organizations' preferences by deployment and sourcing model. And it shows that roughly half of organizations prefer a do-it-yourself model, while more than a quarter want a fully managed service. 11% prefer a managed service with separate lots for managed SD-WAN and underlay, while another 10% favor a co-managed model. I think the picture becomes more interesting when we relate the results to the network investment strategy, and that's what I'm doing on the right-hand side. Pragmatic organizations are those that simply invest to keep the organization running, and they make up 53% of the sample. Strategic organizations focus on strategic investments to meet business objectives, and they account for 34% of the sample. The transformative organizations are the 13% that invest heavily to transform and digitalize their business. Since we believe that more and more organizations will recognize the need for network transformation on their way to becoming a future enterprise, I think it's interesting to zoom in on the transformative organizations. And the results show that they are more likely than others to prefer managed service models in general and co-managed models in particular. And that indicates their approach to outsource complexity and focus their resources where they can obtain a competitive edge. Andrew, what's your take on deployment models?
Thanks, Jan. So I love this slide. And the reason I like it is because it represents every customer that we speak to. They fit into all of these categories. What is most interesting about it is the point at time when you speak to them on that journey. And what we typically find, and what we've seen in a lot of customers, is the desire and aspiration to build and operate their own infrastructure and not be reliant on potentially a large provider or service provider over the course of time. Whilst that journey's happening and that transformation is happening, I think we've seen a lot of organizations change their opinions of how they want to make that investment moving forward. So it's not uncommon for us to find customers who started with a pragmatic investment strategy slowly move towards a more transformative network strategy, as per your slide, as they realize that they can use organizations to support them to get towards that journey and get the outcome they want and deliver the experience for their end users. So I think it's a really interesting position where people start and end that journey, and their reliance on organizations to do that. And obviously them deciding on what partners do that is important. But I think it's a really interesting point where customers find themselves and how they can, they can start that journey where they want to and then decide to end up somewhere else and get the get the investment right and the support they needed to get their outcome.
Thanks for these insights, Andrew. Completely agree. So the pandemic and the resulting shift to remote working will have a lasting impact on ways of working, and organizations are implementing and refining hybrid working strategies. It's not an easy process. The chart on the left-hand side shows the key IT challenges that European enterprises are facing when they implement these hybrid working strategies. And you can see that many of them relate to the network, and I've highlighted them in this chart. They include home network security, remote access, internet connectivity, and technology consistency as key pain points. This is forcing enterprises to look at a more structured way to extend enterprise-class networks to remote and mobile employees, and we refer to that as the branch of one. And we've identified a number of key components that this architecture will bring. It includes enhanced connectivity, which can mean subsidizing broadband connectivity to homes or augmenting broadband with cellular connections. It also covers aspects like integrated security, collaboration tools, and cloud-based management, which allows applications and security policies to be set once and applied to all points in the network. User experience is another key element. It also includes an office in a box, because for some workers, an appliance may be necessary to ensure connectivity and security. And options can include things like Wi-Fi access points, mobile routers, or cloud gateways. Enterprises do not necessarily need to have all of these components for a branch of one architectures. Many organizations will mix and match solutions to fit their own needs. And furthermore, not all employees within an enterprise will need the same solution set. Enterprises should tailor the branch of one architecture to their specific business needs. They should consider how reliable a connection is needed, what applications must be supported, and what level of security must be provided. But above all, they'll need to integrate the requirements of the branch of one within the WAN architectures and roadmaps. Andrew, would you like to comment on some of the key networking trends that you are seeing in the market?
Well, I think that the key one for us is internet connectivity. If those of you on the call who understand and know who Deutsche Telekom are, you'll know that our hereditary is coming from providing organizations with secure backbone connectivity that we provide. The internet connectivity has, and the advent of people being able to use it has fundamentally shifted the customer mindset and the approach from organizations like Deutsche Telekom. So that has driven an awful lot of change inside our organization that we are changing to be able to accommodate and allow customers to go on that journey. In reference to this branch of one architecture, this is just so important now, because not only was home working, around before the pandemic, but it has totally changed the dynamic now. And so that is a massive change where any organization we work with, we have to be able to support not only the office-based infrastructure, but every single user that is out there and give them the same experience. So it's a huge part of any bid that we do now, that the connectivity is important, but the end user experience is critical, regardless of where they are and what location they are. And more specifically, if they are working this branch of one location, we have to accommodate that. So it's a big change of our approach from thinking about corporate solutions into end user experience. And that's one of the key things that we're focused on.
Thanks, Andrew. So what does all this mean for enterprises? So today I want to highlight 3 considerations for network transformation: embedding the network in digital initiatives, developing a holistic transformation roadmap, and choosing a partner that's best aligned with your unique needs. Now, let me drill down a bit deeper into each of those. The network underpins all aspects of the organization. The way it goes to market, sells, sources, communicates, collaborates, delivers, all of it will be increasingly reliant on the network in the digital-first world. This means the success of the future enterprise will depend on the performance of the network. The past couple of years have underlined the importance of the network as it became the lifeline of the economy. And the uptake of remote working and digital business models have made the network more visible to senior management and basically to all of the organization. Now, the network should be an integral part of all major digital initiatives. Too often we have seen that digital projects, be it around collaboration or customer experience, are being rolled out, only to find out that the network is not ready to support it. Therefore, the networking team needs to be represented from day one to ensure the right level of performance. I think it's important to build the business case for network transformation on the basis of this relevance and criticality of the network. It should not be positioned as a necessary cost, but rather as a positive case that enables the new business models and ways of working that can make the company thrive in the digital future. You will also want to start building what I would call a holistic roadmap for transformation. This should include a further alignment of networking and security strategies to address the need for convergence. This can mean bringing teams on a single leadership or at least driving collaboration between the two. It also means defining joint plans and aligning life cycles. You will also need to take a cross-domain view of the network. So don't restrict it to the wide area network, but think across LAN, branch of one, data center, cloud, and also the Internet of Things. And across these domains, you'll need a good inventory of your current estate. What's the state of the current network? What are the renewal cycles? At the same time, you also need a solid forecast of your capacity requirements over the next 3 to 5 years. Think beyond SD-WAN when you design the desired state. SD-WAN is a hot topic right now. It's definitely an important investment to make, but it's just one step in the overall network transformation. And that brings me to the migration path. It's one thing to paint a picture of what your network should look like a couple of years down the line. It's quite a different thing to get there from where you are today. The business increasingly depends on the network, so you'll need to carefully plan the steps in a way that minimizes risk and business disruption. On this basis, you should develop a financial analysis that reflects the cost in the widest sense. And that includes infrastructure, connectivity, professional services, but also any internal resources that you may need. And it also should cover any revenue opportunities that will be enabled by the transformation. The last point I want to discuss today is the partner selection process. All WANs are not created equal, so due diligence is certainly needed. The portfolio of products and services is obviously a key criterion. The features and functions are important, but also the way in which these can be mixed and matched to accommodate the needs of different sites, users, and applications. And how easy is it to add or remove additional features? It's also important to consider a provider's approach to technology partners. Over the years, a growing range of functions will be delivered from the network. Security is a good example here. You want to understand who a network provider is working with, how open their ecosystem is, and whether they can meet your needs in terms of additional network functionalities. I've talked about the different deployment models, and you will really need to align your choice with both your requirements and the capabilities. Do you have the in-house resources to take a do-it-yourself approach? This can give freedom in what products and services you can use, but it can also be more CapEx intensive and complex and resource consuming. So your organization needs to be ready for that. Or do you leave the operational side to a service provider, a service partner? And if so, do you go for a more traditional managed service model, or do you go for the flexibility and on-demand nature of an as-a-service model? And what would be the level of control that you would like to have within this managed environment? Then there's the question of network coverage. Does your prospective partner have any underlay network at all, or would you have to source this separately? If it has a network, does the coverage meet your geographical needs, or would you need to add additional partners, which may mean additional effort to manage more relationships? And finally, you should consider the provider's track record. Do they have the proof points that they have been that they have been serving similar clients successfully, and do they have the resources to support you where you need it? At the end of the day, the one question that matters for you is which partner can best address your specific needs and help you transform your network into a future network. And with that, let me hand back to Nishi.
Yes, thank you, Yanhan. This has been really insightful. Thank you for all the research that you presented and the summary with summarizing the IDC's perspective. And of course, also asking the right questions to Andrew during the presentation. I think it might be really worth to also hear from Andrew in terms of what they are seeing in the market, what Deutsche Telekom is actually doing with the customers and the customer stories. So Andrew, if you would like to talk about your approach and how you are doing things in the market and helping your customers and the things that you're hearing from your customers in terms of their transformation journey. I think that will be really
Of course,
helpful.
be delighted to. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I hope that most people who are attending the call today are aware of Deutsche Telekom and who we are. But just as a quick reminder, we're still 100 billion market cap global carrier, the largest in Europe and one of the biggest in the global stage. But what has happened over the course of the last few years is that whilst Deutsche Telekom have got a very dominant and big presence, that sometimes comes with some perception of the type of organization that we are, and hence we formed Deutsche Telekom Global Business Solutions. And the idea was to create a business unit that was significantly more agile and able to react at the pace of change of our customers. As we've heard in the previous parts of the presentation, the transformational and the digital journeys they're going on require a different approach and a different way of partnering, and the Global Business Solutions unit has been formed to do that. It was formed over 2 years ago, and I personally joined around about that time to come on that journey with the organization, help with that interaction both internally and with our customers to prove and develop solutions that fit to that agenda. So on this next slide, as we've heard in the earlier presentation, with the customer requirements that marry up to what we've heard from IDC, as I said, the recognition was that we have to take a different approach to market. So whilst we've all been working towards output-based specifications before, and we will still do that, the requirements from the customer have significantly changed. Plus, a lot of the time we are now moving into where the customer has already made technology and service decisions. And then for us to come in and work with them, we have to be able to operate within what their infrastructure choices have been and their partner choices have been, which may not have historically been part of our portfolio. Not just that, but also our approach to how customers are making those investment decisions. So we've heard of that pragmatic through to transformative type of organization. We want to be able to work with any organization on that journey and fit our model to that. So rather than having a one-stop, this is how we work with you, we are able now to demarcate our service offer and around the portfolio offer that matches with the customer requirement. So you'll see on the right-hand side, our DT approach now is to have this concept of modular offerings that the customer can select dependent on where they are on their journey and how they have, how far along that journey they are, and whether or not they still want to continue on that journey or whether they want to change the way they're buying services and outcomes from organizations aligned to where they currently are. And this modular approach has proven to be really successful and allows us to target a significant number of benefits for organizations to go from where they are as part of their start of the cloud journey all the way through to a full digital transformation. And it fits very nicely, and we can change this across the course of the contract as well, which is proven to be really, really attractive and successful. The only way we can do that is, if you see on the next slide, we have invested in a significant number of portfolio offerings. So as I've said, we are not saying this is our solution for SD-WAN and you'll buy this. What we are looking at is we've built out a number of relationships and centers of competence around the key vendors in the SD-WAN and security space that allow us to work with customers across us, 99% of scenarios that we currently see in our customer base. Now, that's been a significant investment on our behalf. But again, with that demarcation change and working with that transformation journey, with the right portfolio, it's proven to be invaluable in being able to us to work with customers along every single part of that journey, allows us to do that migration, the design, the operation that the customer needs to make that happen. And we use that leveraging new service offerings, new ways of communicating, all the way up to working with a broad amount of organizations for their SASE and SD-WAN journey. And this is evidenced through one case study I want to talk to you about to give you that sort of proof around the track record, which is a customer called Asahi. And Asahi came to us 2 years ago as part of an RFP process to say, look, we have a very significant transformation journey we're going on, very aggressive, with a significant number of global providers already engaged. The only way for them to realize that journey was to find an organization that fitted not only into their partner ecosystem, but also had the capability to work with what they had today and then take it onto that next journey. And so through that period of time, we've been able to take from almost like a legacy carrier network all the way through to a cloud delivered next generation network across all of their locations globally. So 10,000 employees working in brewery locations and remotely and from home, 19 of the brewery locations across 8 countries, and then they've got distribution locations across 200 sites across the world. A significant change to how they approach their work. So we did that through a consultative approach. We understood what they had, not only from their existing communications, but security, and also how their users were being changed throughout the pandemic. Which allowed us to win what was a significant solution. And it was only done because we were able to fit our demarcation against what they had and what they wanted, and that we could work at their pace of change, not the pace of change that we wanted, but their pace of change, which was absolutely essential to making sure that we were agile and work with them. And the final slide is really just validation of that. So on the right-hand side, you'll see Reto, who was the CIO we were working with across that journey. He's only just left the organization, but he's been there for the last 4 years. He was instrumental in driving that transformation journey. And the key statement was, we found the right partner to support our global digital transformation journey. And the key word there is clearly partner. We're not talking about technology. We're talking about an organization that was able to fit not only to their agenda, but also to their service requirement, where they wanted to own infrastructure or outcomes versus what they wanted someone else to manage for them. So it was a really great case study. It's well publicized on social media. I'm happy to send you more details if you wish to. And on that note, on the left-hand side, you'll see my contact details, and we would be delighted to speak to anyone who's attending this call. If you feel that there is something we can help you with, or help you with that transformation journey, we'd be delighted to. So thank you for your time, and also thank you to IDC for hosting this call, and I'll pass back to you, Nishi.
Thank you, Andrew. This is really good, and of course this brings us to the end of the session today. You have Andrew's contact details from the previous slide, but also they will be available to you shortly after the session. We have Jan Han's contact details available as well. So if you have any questions, any queries about your future network journey, please feel free to reach out to Deutsche Telekom and Andrew, or to IDC team and Jan Han, and we will be really happy to support you. Thank you for listening, and hope you have good rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.